And then before we begin, I would love to just have a quick round, an opening question. And that is, so you've all come here because we're talking about bravery, right? And so what really specific brave thing is it that you want to do? So I'll give you a minute in silence to think of it. So if you're a coach, you can talk about bravery for coaches. Maybe there's something in your sessions you want to be a little bit more courageous about, or in your marketing. If you're not yet a coach, but maybe you quit your job or between jobs, or something else is going on in your personal life or professional life, and you're like, I really want to be brave enough to do this. So just let yourself know what exactly you want to be able to do. And when you're ready, let's do a quick round of speaking up. Who would like to speak first?
I'll do it if you want.
Can we go ahead, Pauline?
Yep. Bravery. I said no to a job offer on Friday because it wasn't quite my anchor point, and I wasn't lit up enough about it. But I went back with what if we do it at this much for a 12-month contract, and then we can bring in someone lower as a CFO, continue forward kind of thing. Haven't heard back, but I'm also okay with that at the moment.
That's very brave. And do you want to look forward into the future? Well, I mean, you don't have to. You could say the brave thing that you just did also. We just also want this to be a space to encourage you to like take your next brave step as well, if you want to.
Keep doing that. Keep
doing it.
Try to find that anchor point and that bravery, and trying to find the almost perfect.
Tour yesterday. Okay.
Awesome. So who can speak next?
We need to do a resubmit.
And can someone, I think it's someone who I can't see, please mute. Alice, can I make you co-host? Make you co-host, and then you can go ahead and let people in, mute them, whatever needs to happen. Great. Okay, who can speak next? What do you want to do that's brave? Go ahead, Fiona.
So I've been putting off something for a while, and this week I have to be brave enough. So I've taken the first step. I need to be brave enough to follow through. So that's what's going on for me.
Cool. Welcome, Liani. Welcome, Jenny. Sorry about the glitch getting in here today. And welcome. We're just doing a quick round as a starter question of what exactly specifically do you want to do to be brave? So who would like to speak up next? Catherine?
So I'm signed up to join the Awaken cohort in September, and this is really kind of stepping into formalizing what I feel like I've been doing since I was a little child, and it's taking a lot of bravery because it's kind of saying, this is me, and this is who I want to be, and this is how I want to be in a really formal way. And it's bringing up a lot of surprising vulnerability for me. And my husband's like, but you can talk to anyone. And I said, yes, but this is kind of saying, I can do that, and I can be that, and I do want to do that and be that in a different sort of way. So there's a surprising nuance under there that's,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, got it. Who wants to speak next? I think Liani's trying to speak. Yeah, you're unmuted now. Great.
Well, everything's just working. I'm really relieved. Wow, hello everyone. I've missed you, Alice and Jennifer. I saw Fiona on Tuesday. Welcome everyone else that I don't know. Brave, just being able to get on here makes me feel very courageous because it doesn't always work. And I went to the eye doctor yesterday, and since I started coaching and so much, My left eye has done an optic something that like made it broke it some way. So I am bravely showing up with the wrong glasses for the next 2 weeks and hopefully not forgetting where I am in the conversation or what I have to remember for my family as a neurospicy brain, with my head hurting and my eyes not doing what they're supposed to do. Just staying present and just chilling. That's the biggest gift I think I have received from being part of the Awaken family, is just having more grace with myself and other people, and what will happen will happen. So here I am.
Thank you, Leonie. Who would like to speak next? Hi, Annelise. We're doing a quick round of what we want to be brave in coming up in our lives, a really specific next brave thing.
Hi, Christi. I'm sorry I'm late. I could not get in, so yeah.
Welcome.
It's
Thank
okay.
you for persisting.
Oh, I can be quite persistent, especially if
Yes, I know.
you agree with me.
That's great.
How are you?
Wonderful.
How have you been?
I've been well. I've got a lot of brave excitement. Maybe I'll go next since you're asking me a question on these. So I did a brave thing just a few minutes ago, well, an hour ago, and bought myself an airplane ticket to Malindi on the beach on the Indian Ocean for November, because I decided to create a level 3 MCC level coach training course this year. And I'm just believing that it's happening. And so I started up a little WhatsApp group with a bunch of my most admired people, like really amazing women, business owners, etc., who I'm like, I'm in the presence of greatness. You're such an amazing person. And I invited them, and they're starting to buy their tickets today. So I just bought my ticket and I'm like, okay, we're doing this. So it feels very brave. Who would like to speak next? Jennifer.
I can go. I committed to writing a book this year, and I said it publicly. So now I have to do it. And it's going to be really important because it's really putting together all the things that I teach and coach on. And I'm really excited to have the resource. It's really the resource I want, that I wish existed, and it doesn't exist. So I'm going to create it. But it feels so vulnerable. And the fact that I've said publicly I'm doing it, I have a goal to finish it by the end of the year, which means really solid draft this summer and editing process in the fall. I really hope I can do it. So it feels very brave.
Awesome. Who's next?
I can go. So as I mentioned earlier, I am trying to start a coaching business, and I keep waffling on exactly how I want to do it. I think there's definitely a lot of fear involved. My initial idea and what really prompted me down this path was all of the people that used to work for me in my previous job. I think young professionals are often left out of coaching, as coaching is often centered on like leaders or people more experienced. And so what I found is all these young professionals really needed like help and coaching, just navigating day-to-day life at work. And the younger generations also are a lot more focused on work-life balance and not just, working until being like the purpose of your life, basically. And so what I wanted to create was a membership for young professionals. So something that is affordable, that they can actually afford throughout their careers, rather than you can't really afford one-on-one coaching for, your whole career. That's not practical. But I keep getting overwhelmed with what the time commitment involved would be. I have my job before, I was working like 12 hours a day, like year round, basically. And it was just crazy. And I don't want to fall back into that. So I'm trying to not let fear stop me, but having a hard time with that.
Awesome. And you're welcome to speak or not speak. We are recording, so just be as brave and vulnerable as you want to be in this conversation. So I'll invite, if you haven't spoken next yet, please feel free. And if you don't want to speak next, just kind of wave and say, not talking right now, which is also fine. Who would like to speak next? I see,
will.
Jenny, you're raising your hand, and
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? My internet's a little bit spotty. Am I coming
yes, we
through?
can.
Oh, okay. I would have my camera on, but because it's recording and I have my little one on my lap, I chose to have camera off. But my brave thing is actually participating via voice, because sometimes it's scary and vulnerable. Vulnerable to use my voice and to put it out there. So that's my
Yeah.
brave.
Wonderful. Thank you for using your voice. And
Okay, I'll
Amis, did
go.
I see you wanting to talk? Oh no, Cheryl, go ahead.
Hey, good morning. At least this morning for me. I think I'm being brave by signing up at a very late hour for the Spain Institute. And I actually sold my car to pay for the Institute. And we are trying to juggle now how to be a one-car family. So but I know it's going to work out, and I'm still trying to get myself ready for that. So I'm trying to be in a brave space to do that. But good morning. Nice to meet everyone else.
Wow, Cheryl, that is really brave. Yee. I'm excited. Cool. Anyone else like to speak? Liani.
Yes. May I upgrade my brave answer, because I was
Very brave
really
of you to ask
frustrated.
to upgrade.
Yes. I just realized that I did this thing last week. I can't remember when the deadline was, but I applied with a company that recruits coaches to do executive coaching, which I have never done before. And so I don't know if I'm going to be accepted or what have you, but I just realized that's something that I have done, which I'm very proud of and a bit terrified if I get a job.
Yeah. Awesome. One last call if you'd like to speak. I know some of you like to think before speaking, so I don't want anyone to feel in a rush, but I do want to give you the opportunity. So if no one else would like to speak, I want to just see if we can pull out some themes that tell us like what courage and bravery are. And so I actually had the great privilege of getting trained with Brené Brown's organization as a certified Daring Greatly facilitator. And I also did the Dare to Lead program. And so it's really fun when I hear a lot of people talking about what they want to do to be brave, because the research actually is backed up every time we do one of these conversations. And so I'll just tell you some of the things that I'm hearing as you talk. So one of the things that came up is you're afraid. When you're being courageous, there is an element of fear. And part of that fear is related to the fact that you do not know what the outcome will be. When you say no to a job, when you quit a job, when you ask for the promotion, when you do something for the first time, when you do something new, when you put yourself out there, you don't know. Are you going to end up homeless on a park bench for the next 2 years? Like some of these consequences, like are you going to make money from your coaching practice to buy yourself a new car if that's what you want to do? So these are some situations that we don't know. We don't control the outcome, and we're making choices that include risk. And it's normal to be nervous, anxious, fearful, panicking even sometimes. And so that's one of the things that happens. And the other things that I'd love to pull out is that some of us already started talking about our values. Like when you want to do something brave, one of the things that you want to do is really connect with your why. That's what really helps. And so if it's okay, Lauren, I'll go back to something that you said, that, you know, even though you have some fear, which is normal with anything courageous, you do not want young people to have to work 12 hours a day. You appreciate this work-life balance. You want things to be affordable. And so that's why you're going for membership as opposed to, you know, more expensive one-on-one work. And so those values that you have of affordability, maybe community, I'm not sure if that was one of your values, giving back maybe to younger people. And I heard that also with what Jennifer said. So it's scary to publicly put yourself out there that I'm writing a book, and I wanted to have these resources. And so thinking about other people and your hopes for those people, I'm guessing there's some really strong values under there that are going to be really important. And I know when you're doing strengths-based work, your values are a big part. I mean, a lot of those Clifton strengths are actually related to values. Some of them are clearly your values. And so I'm imagining that connection with people, and I don't remember what some of your other top strengths are off the top of my head, Jennifer, but I'm sure they're coming through. You want to unmute?
Well, communication is number one, and being driven to communicate and ideation. So it definitely lines in. Like the bravery is in the direction of what comes naturally to me. So it's like, okay, I'm feeling like I want to communicate these ideas to people. How do I step into that?
Exactly, right. So we are seeing, and maybe all of us here are starting to kind of become more aware of what are the top one or two values that are underlying this next brave thing that I want to do. Is it financial freedom? Is it connection with family members afar? Is it wanting to serve the world? There's some of these, just let yourself start to know them. So as we continue to discuss, they become even more clear for you. So we've got vulnerability and fear is synonymous with courage. We've got values are super important. Another thing that I heard popping up in your conversation is that it's drawing on your sense of trust. Okay, and that trust and vulnerability are kind of layered on each other little by little. So when you do something for the first time, you might not go, I'm guessing some of you who said that you went publicly with stuff, you might have shared it with some trusted friends first. You want to raise a hand if any of you, if before you made your big move, did you talk to a partner or a best friend or a parent or somebody who was really close to you, who you trusted, and then you went out there a little bit into the wild, wild world where there might be criticism and dissent and people thinking you're doing it all wrong and all that kind of stuff, right? And then finally, another thing that I heard a couple of you say is our fourth pillar of bravery, which is being kind to yourself. So we're starting out, you know, our first pillar of vulnerability, that you do not know the outcome. it could all go south. You might fail. If you do enough brave things, you will fail. And so how are you going to speak to yourself? And how are you going to treat yourself? And so I just want to pull up what Liani said. Showing up with a neurospicy brain with a pair of glasses that aren't just quite right, but just I'm showing up even if I have a headache or things aren't so great. And we see a little embarrassed laughter because we all get what that feels like when you just show up anyway. And what she said, Liani, was I want to have grace with myself. And so I'm wondering how many of us, when you're thinking about that next brave thing that you're doing, are you willing to start offering yourself some compassionate whispers if it goes wrong? If you don't get the job, if entrepreneurship turns out to be harder than you thought, if you don't make as much money as you were hoping to, how are you going to treat yourself? And how kindly do you want to talk to yourself? And how much grace do you want to give yourself when you're writing your shitty first draft or doing things for the scary first time? And so with your permission, we'll just continue this conversation. So you've kind of primed the pump with what brave thing that you want to be doing. And so our next question is, which of your top 2 values are you living into? And so just let yourself kind of know what's rising to the surface inside of your soul that's making this so important. And when we talk about values, one thing that I think is a really nice way to do it is to think of 2 complementary values. So you wouldn't necessarily say that your top 2 values are being sweet and soft, because those are both kind of similar, but you might be strong and loving. So for me, for example, this brave thing that I did this morning of buying these plane tickets, my top 2 values have been really crystal clear for a number of years now, and they are creating communities of grace. And so my 2 values are community and grace. And I know that I'm on the right track doing something if I'm creating communities of grace. And I know that I'm on the wrong track if what I'm doing is not creating community and it's not adding to a space of non-judgment and acceptance and kindness. Okay. So when I create this level 3 course, I shouldn't even say I create, we're going to co-create with all these wonderful ones who I admire so much. And I was really scared to do it because I'm like, what if they think, like, who does she think she is? Just because somebody has an MCC doesn't mean they know more than I do. And my shame gremlin of I should try to look like I'm the biggest expert on earth and be logical and all that started rearing its head. And then I went back to my values and I thought, you know what? I remember the day I got my MCC credential from the ICF, and it was the hugest letdown. It was this form email with like a, here's your logo thingy you can stick up on LinkedIn. And I was like, where's the community? This is lonely. I don't like this. And even my MCC course that I took, I was frustrated because I would show up in a room with people and we weren't connecting. It was that we were just doing the nitty gritty. Are we, checking off, are our skills improving? But I wasn't creating, I didn't feel like I was being known or really knowing other people in my course. And I thought, you know what, we can do better than this. And so what helped me be brave enough was to just say, I don't have to have my shame expert persona in the room, but I can show up really wanting to create community, because these other people who are coming, I know them and I know that they also get lonely and that it's also challenging to be an entrepreneur and a leader and to put yourself out there day after day. and we can support each other really, really well. And I know that the people that are coming are the kind of people, because they've done it, you know, if you trust vulnerability. When I'm with these people and I tell them about my fears and anxieties and vulnerability, they respond consistently with empathy. And if they get it wrong, they apologize and try again. And so I know they give grace to me. I can give grace to them. This is going to be a space of learning and growth. And so I'm a yes, I'm all in. And other people can join based on their values, if it's lining up with what they want. So how about you guys? What are your values that really you just know, yes, yep, I'm on the right track. This is lighting my way. Pauline, you want to kick us off again?
Sure. Like for me, obviously not being a coach, but being a coachee instead. And, you know, this is something that, you know, maybe one day will speak to me. But at the moment, it's the empathy and the compassion I'm having for myself to make the difficult decisions, and very much being fully self-resourced this time. And, you know, doing something that I've never done before is not just take the first thing that's offered to me and go, actually, does that whole situation light me up, especially like from a human design perspective? And, you know, is that a whole body gut yes to me, or is it a bit of a, you know? And then, you know, at the moment I've got the time and the space to give myself a couple of weeks of that, trying to find the right thing. And if I need to take a short-term role to fill the living desires of, you know, having money come in, then I can do that as a compromise while I look for that proper thing I want. So it's having the flexibility to chop and change, and I'm not so black and white when it comes to what has to be the case. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so flexibility and lighting up, or maybe a couple values I'm hearing.
Yeah. And connected, like the work, who I work with is so important for me. Like as an accountant, you can work with anyone or anywhere, and it's your team, it's the wider team that you work with that, you know, that connectedness and that drive that makes it interesting every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are the kinds of words that are going to serve you really well in your search, that you know that about yourself, the team and connectedness.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Who would like to speak next? What are your values? Catherine.
As you were asking, I was just writing down like being of service and connection, and like creating connection and belonging in community. And then I have to say that relationship with self and others and our community, you know, just so kind of that sort of flows into connection, but really being in right relationship with ourselves so that we can bring that into the world. So those were kind of sparking.
Mm-hmm. So much richness there, and that's something you can really keep going back to. Thank you. Who wants to speak next about their values? Supporting your bravery, Liani.
My current values, or my slogan tagline for my baby coaching business, is co-creating beautiful belonging. And if I may just expand a bit on that, the previous 20 years, I think probably my two dominant or primary values were dignity and justice. And I realized that there came a time where dignity and justice was so other-centered at the expense of my own well-being. And not that those are bad values, they're, I think, in 3 and 4 in my list, but I had to really agitate them and question how are they still serving the kind of person I would like to become. And so yes, beauty, I've realized, is it's like a fuel for me. It's a it calms it calms down my Ferrari brain when I want to go nuts. And also every time I choose something or to say no to something else that's not bringing me closer towards my understanding of a very holistic kind of beauty, where there's grace, where there's forgiveness and healing, I have to move away from it. So it protects me, and it also helps me to be more ordered in my head. And the belonging is similar to yours, Christi. But I also need to benefit from belonging to the things I say yes to, or the brave things I try out again, because it backfire sometimes.
Yeah,
and hurt you.
Can be vulnerable. Yeah. Yeah, and if it's okay, I'd love to draw out a little bit more of a teaching moment around values based on what you said, Leonie, because it can be really important. And I know for the Gallup strengths coaches among us, they talk about coaching from the balcony versus coaching from the basement. And what we teach at Awaken Coach Institute is often about the values hierarchy. And so values do come in hierarchies. And sometimes the hierarchy is a little bit out of whack. And so we have ways of asking questions that will suss out, is this person's value more toward the fear end or more toward the love end of the continuum? And we ask questions like, well, what would happen if that value was gone? And the most 100% love-based value, the person can't even imagine that the value is gone. Okay, so like for me, if it was community, and that's a really healed value for me, that's really love-based. And you ask me, well, what would happen if there wasn't any community? And I'd be like, well, what do you mean? We'd just create somewhere else then. It would be fun. Like there's always community. There's always ways. Like I could move to Portugal next week. I would figure out how to create community. You just can't imagine it's gone, right? And then more of a fear-based value. Let's say if my value was like responsibility, or it could be anything. It could be joy. It could be anything. It's not like a good or bad. But if you said, well, what if you weren't responsible anymore? Everyone else was responsible. And I'd be like, that would be so frustrating. And I would have to, and I'd use a lot of shoulds and have tos, and there would be a bit of tension and a lot of knots in my language and OT. Then we might say, that's more of a fear-based value. And so then if that one, like, I must be responsible at all costs, or I must have peace at all costs, and there's no peace, then I'm gonna cry and dig a hole and go sit in my hole, right? That shows us that value might be in the wrong place in the hierarchy, and it might be good to switch them. And so the reason I bring that up is that it sounds like for Leonie, your values hierarchy has shifted over the years as you're coming in touch with more love in your soul. Justice is still a great value. Dignity is still a great value. And they're allowed to shift down in the hierarchy a little bit because there's not so much fear around it. And beauty is allowed to take its proper place in your hierarchy as a real love-based resource for you as you create these spaces of connection, right? So just be aware of that when you're choosing your top two values. Do those top two values feel slightly scary, or like you have to strive and push and fight for them? Or does it feel a little bit more like, this is buoyant and lovely to have this in my values? And if there's one that's maybe a little bit lower down in your hierarchy that is really resourceful, see if maybe you can let it sneak up. Maybe fun is number 9 on your list. but it's wanting to be there to support you a little bit more, right? So just something to think of. I love coaching around values. You can probably tell because I'm yammering on about it forever. One or two more people want to mention anything about your values and how they support your bravery? Alice.
Yeah, I think for me it's really important to do that check-in with my values, because to me a lot of the time the feeling of going towards something that is scary but that I want can also feel in my gut the same as going towards something that isn't right for me. Like I get that same kind of fear, and then I don't always immediately know, like, is the fear coming because this is wrong and I know it's wrong, or is the fear coming because it's really right and I'm scared? So I need to do that values check-in for myself, because then if it doesn't align with my values, I can say, right, I'm getting that gut feeling because it's wrong for me. But if it aligns with my values, I'm getting that fear because it's right, but it's just a bit scary. So I think for me, it's so vital to have that check-in with my values, with what my personal purpose is in the world, before I make any decisions, just to check I'm in alignment, because otherwise I'll get further down the line and it's all going to go wrong.
Yeah. And if I'm getting you right as you talk, Alice, it sounds like once there's a cognitive, like checking in, I know my purpose, I can check it logically. And then there might also be a body check. Like I notice you using your hands, checking in right here. And something I often will ask people to do with their values is just to write a couple of their values and put them on pieces of paper on the floor. And just stand on them and let your body feel, like, what does this one feel? What does this one feel? And then try stacking them and standing on them both, and like let your mind take a break and let your body know, when these two have a chat with each other, how do they organize themselves? And just let them talk it out. Let them talk it out. They'll settle into the right hierarchy on their own if you let them. It might sound a little woo weird to some people, but it's really lovely to watch it at work. All right, so moving on from values, one of the other things that you guys mentioned as we were first talking about being brave is braving trust, knowing who those people are in your life that are there for you. And so these are people that offer you unconditional positive regard, absolute compassion and kindness when you fail. You do not have to cover up or like put on your social media persona around them, because you can be totally yourself and they're gonna be there for you. And when they mess it up, they're gonna apologize and come back. And so we could take a long time talking about the 7 attributes of trust. But we'll save that for another day. And we'll just see if we can name, who are those people. If you make your fingers into a square that's only 1 inch or 2 centimeters, and you had to put the names of the people you really trust in that square, you can only fit 2, maybe 3 names in there. And those are the people that you want to really have in the know on your team when you have this tender shoot of an idea that you're putting tons of barbed wire around to keep the critics out. Who is allowed in there to support and water and bring sunshine to your budding project or idea? And some of us get that wrong. We think, well, it should be my mother, or it should be my sister, or it should be this person, or I should tell all the people in my office. And sometimes those are not, in fact, the people who regularly come back with consistent kindness, empathy, compassion, and a willingness to understand you and any other values you really want to hold dear in your close relationships. And so sometimes we're doing all this work to please the people who have not earned the right to hear our story, or for us to spend a whole lot of our time working on pleasing them, regardless of what society thinks. And so just checking in with ourselves, and I don't need anyone to say anything that you don't want to say in this particular room or with the recording on, but maybe with some anonymity, can we speak about who those people are who actually are trustworthy and who deserve to hear our story and who deserve a lot more of our time and attention than the people who were maybe wasting too much time worrying about their criticism. Who would like to speak first?
I'm happy to contribute to this one if that's okay. I'm really fortunate. I have a friend who's known me since I was born. She's 1 year older than me. So I'm sure she does not remember the blessed day that I graced her with my presence, but I'm joking. But we have been friends since we were small children because our parents were very close friends. And I think there's a level of trust when you quite literally sat in the sandbox next to somebody and probably pooped your pants next to them, as children do. That I don't think there's absolutely anything that I could do or anything that she could do that I would find embarrassing or too ridiculous or anything. So we don't live near each other and we don't see each other often at all. But when we do catch up, there's absolutely nothing, and we can have very honest, very vulnerable chats.
And she and you are worth gold to each other. What a treasure that is. And it's worth more than 50,000 raving fans to have a dear, close friend that you could be yourself with. And I'm so grateful with you for that. Thank you. Who else wants to contribute? Either someone who you know is in your square squad or somebody who you're like, huh, I have been wasting a little too much time caring what this person thinks because they're not even that kind to me.
I've just experienced that
Mm. Mm-hmm.
in a big, massive fashion. And that's really hard. That's 20 years of friendship that I thought she would always be in my square, always be on the side of cheerleading for whatever I did next. And she isn't. And that's hard. And there's a grief that belongs to that. And, you know, I think we've both changed. I've grown. I've done a lot of work on myself. So I'm not the needy, slightly working for my inner child person anymore. I've come back to myself and so much more self-reliant. So the dynamics have changed because I've changed, but it's still sad. It's still really sad. It hurts.
Mm. And that's a huge piece. I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I know that we can all feel that with you because part of learning who you can trust and who you can't is being willing to face grief. Because if we're not, we're just going to keep fighting to prove that that person is who they're not. And getting really frustrated and resentful and angry at them for not doing better. Yeah. And when we can see reality clearly and really with kindness and generosity, this person is doing the best they can. Part of that is being willing to face grief and loss, and to find other people, because there are other trustworthy people out there, and it takes time and it takes grieving and it takes reality checking to know who they are. Thank you so much for adding that. Jennifer.
I had a situation with a client this week, and this was the exact observation that she wasn't making, but she was talking about, when I talk to these people, I get so excited and I really think that I can do this. I'm going to step out on my own and become a freelancer, and I can see that I can make more money. And she had this real abundance mindset. And she said, but then my dad said, crush. And then my husband said, fear. And she was talking about, but I really think I could, but then they said, and I just made the observation that, or asked the question, how does who you talk to impact what you believe about what's possible? And it was like clarity for her. Really interesting topic. Thanks for that.
Absolutely. And it's not to say that all criticism is wrong. Some of your best friends can give a reality check too. It's not that they're always going to be sunny and roses on every idea you have, but they're going to love you when you fail. They're going to be with you whether you agree with them or not. Sometimes parents just have a lot of fear for their kids, and it can be difficult to be that really trustworthy person just because we can have our blinders on sometimes with our own fears. I'm looking at the time. We've just got about 9 more minutes. So I wanted to move us to the last pillar of bravery. So we've looked at vulnerability, living into your values, braving trust. And the final pillar for being brave is learning to rise again when you fall. And so the biggest key to this one is developing your own compassionate whispers. So not only do you want 1 or 2 people in your square squad who will be compassionate, but you want to be yourself in your square squad. When you speak to yourself, whether it's your toddler self or your teenage self or your adult self or your wise sage self, that the center of you, the heart of you, will come back to all your parts with loving kindness. And so I'd love to give us just a minute in silence to write down, let's say this next brave thing that you want to do is a massive flop. And it's embarrassing, humiliating, shaming. There's 50,000 people who tell you that you're an idiot. You still got your values. You still got your square squad, and you still got yourself. What do you tell yourself? And just take some time to write down those words, and we'll close with a round of just speaking out, as many of them as you want, what you say to yourself. Okay. And so everyone who wishes to speak can. Pauline, are you willing to start us off again, or you can pass? It's all good.
Easy.
Hmm?
It would be Pauline, you did your best, you tried, you showed up. What can you learn from it? What can you take away from it? And what can we do differently next time? And there will be a period where I probably won't talk to myself very nicely, that my inner critic is horrendous, but she's learning to be more compassionate, and it'll be that wave of emotions, and I'll end up on the more positive side with a bit of processing. So it's the feel the fear and do it anyways is what I'm trying to do at the moment.
I love that you brought up the inner critic, because part of compassion is even having compassion on the inner critic. Even if he or she shows up and says something mean, I don't believe in self-sabotage or these saboteurs. They're parts that are afraid, and they need kindness too. And so we can just be like, hey, sweetie, thank you for showing up, inner critic. I got some kindness for you too. I mean, it's just that self energy that can talk to any part, fearful parts or critical parts, and even love them too. So love that you're even letting that part learn and grow and receive goodness from you. Thank you. Who would like to add? Leonie, it looked like you were saying something in the chat, maybe. You can speak if you like.
Oh yeah, I just wrote, Leonie, you tried, you didn't die. Go and have a long bath or wash your hair. Somehow that always makes me feel better.
I love that you have those, that always your tried and true words for yourself. Thank you. Who would like to speak next? Catherine.
I wrote, you did this for you and nothing can take away how you've grown and changed. You can still live your dream. It just might look different than what you thought.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? All right. For me, I like to have a lot of terms of endearment. I call myself, oh, my sweet darling, quite regularly. And one thing I learned from Kristen Neff's self-compassion work is that words of kindness and compassion to myself are really helpful when they fall in 3 categories, which so happen to go exactly in line with Martin Seligman's work about the catastrophic thinking. So in catastrophic thinking, you have the 3 Ps. This is persistent, pervasive, and personal. And then in compassionate kindness to yourself, according to Kristen Neff, it's the opposite, that you, instead of saying that this is persistent, this is going to last forever, I'm always going to fail, etc., you say, this is a moment of suffering. That was really hard, my sweet darling. That was a rough morning. That was a rough email. That was a rough afternoon. And you literally, I don't even like to say that was a hard day, unless it really was like unremitting agony for 8 hours straight, like when I was on the phone with QuickBooks for 5 hours and it still didn't get resolved, and they still have $205.20 of my money, and I could practically have the invoice number memorized. But that's beside the point. That was a rough few hours, but it wasn't a rough whole day. Okay, I still had a warm bed to sleep in that night, and I still had somebody to cuddle with, and I was okay. So it's not permanent, it's a moment of suffering, right? And it's not pervasive. It's not everything in my life. If I try to do an MCC and community program in Kenya, and then it turns out everybody cancels at the last minute and only 3 people come and we don't get accredited and I waste $10,000, like, it's still not pervasive in every part of my life. I still have 3 kids who love me. I still have good girlfriends. There are still good things in my life that I can pay attention to. So yes, I did not like this failure at all. And there's a lot of other good things in my life. And then the third one is just, I'm a person. Hard stuff happens to humans because we're people. And so Kristen's final one is common humanity. This is not personal to me. I'm not the only defective misfit who just can't get things because I'm so dumb and I'm so broken and whatever else. This was hard because I'm a human. And guess what? That makes me so lovable, because anytime I show up and I'm like, I wanted this so bad and it was a huge disappointment and it was a failure, you know what's going to happen? People are just going to love me. Makes me so much more lovable and human to be like, yeah, man, I had a failure too. And then we can all share and we can all connect, and it just builds. Not that we want to have so many failures, but guess what? If they happen, and they will, if we're brave and often enough, we can connect as human beings and share with each other and build that square squad even stronger, build our values even stronger, build our self-compassion even stronger, build our courage. So one round, I would love for everyone to speak if you can. And we're just starting with Pauline every time because I like to always just have somebody who's willing to speak first. One takeaway nugget in one sentence or less. If you've got to go, Lauren, we love you. Thank you for coming. One sentence or less, your main nugget takeaway from any of those 4 pillars or anything someone said in here that you want to keep with you.
We all struggle with the same fear. It's all slightly different for everyone, but we all have the same fears.
Thank you. Alice, can you speak next?
I think for me, what really struck me today is that the kindness element is so often missing from my bravery. Like, I'm very much a push forward, push forward, but like, and I don't kind of talk to myself in a kind way while I'm doing it. I don't kind of reassure myself that it's all gonna be okay if it doesn't work out. And so I think I love how you speak to yourself, Christi. I love that you call yourself terms of endearment, and like that's something that I don't do, but I think would be a practice that I would really benefit from, because yeah, I kind of forget the softness a lot of the time in what I do. So that's my biggest takeaway from today.
Thank you. Catherine, would you like to add or not?
Yeah, I think just this last part of our conversation, you know, rising again after a fall, come from a long line of strong perfectionist tendency humans, and not a lot of modeling around being kind to ourselves. So that's something I'm having to continuously learn as an adult. And I feel like going back to the values is a great place to like tie that into. So, you know, like, oh, would I blame someone else? Oh, right. Then I'm still living in alignment with my values, and I think just that compassion for myself and continuing to grow there is really important. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Liani, would you like to add something or not?
I think what the awareness that is just bubbling up a bit more is just really rediscovering and appreciating the profound encourager I have in my husband. He is so close to the potential shitstorm of my failures, and he always wants to see me try, no matter what's going to happen. So I'm just grateful for being reminded about it, the gift of that through everybody's conversations.
Thank you. Jenny, would you like to speak next?
I would, thank you. I often think in black and white. So it's either all or nothing, and it's on extremes of the scale or whatever it is. So having the catastrophic thinking versus the kindness-based thinking is really helpful to me, so that I can have the extremes, and then once I know the extremes, then I can work towards the middle.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, super healthy. Thank you. Annelies, would you like to wrap us up or not?
Sorry, today is not today. Okay, the afternoon has been rough. So, and I think this is one of my take home is really to get back to the values. I really like this, strengths and values, and to see how they can help or how are they connected to what I want to do? And I think I really appreciated also in your conclusion this, let's say, perspective of giving the correct size to what is happening, if I may say it this way. I think this has been helpful, but you worded it in a way that I will remember and yeah, pass it on.
Lovely. Thank you all so much. And thank you for persisting and showing up and shifting our time together 6 minutes later than we had planned. Love you guys. We will send out the recording to you, and I wish you so much love and bravery and good things today and moving forward. So goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.